For those who don't know me, I'm Alexander R. Cohen of the Atlas Society. Part of what open objectivism is about is that we think for ourselves, and that means we don't always agree. We disagree with each other about important philosophical issues that have real ramifications for how we live. And we have serious, mutually respectful conversations about our disagreements. I expect that our symposium today on parenting and childhood will demonstrate that. Our speaker for this session is Donohue Shortridge. Donohue is a Montessori consultant and a longtime objectivist. She's published in Montessori journals, and she trains Montessori educators. Please welcome Donohue Shortridge.
Thank you, Alexander. Well, good afternoon, and for those of you who are here this morning, welcome back. And to do a quick review, for those of you who are new, we were talking about Dr. Montessori's brilliant insight into her thinking on child development. And we basically said that childhood extends from, we're going to call it birth with these lines over here for that discussion later, and through to 24 years thereabouts to maturity. That has to do with the final development of the frontal lobes that happens somewhere between 21 and 24. And this morning we talked about our own childhoods. We went back and did a little review, and then we talked about what Ayn Rand says about childhood and what Dr. Montessori has to say. And then we spent our time talking about the first plane of development, which goes roughly from 0 to 6 years old. And at this time, the child is focused on creating the fundamental plane of his life, and that's mostly physical development, moving from prone position to fully walking, the development of the hand, development of gross motor, development of personal caretaking skills like learning how to get dressed, how to eat, how to differentiate myself from the other, that beginning fundamental of personhood. And we talked about some of the tools and some of the things to think about with regard to that are self-esteem and will development. That self-esteem is that I'm permitted and honored to be here on the earth, and that I am competent. Those are the two components roughly of self-esteem. And will development is that will doesn't come with birth. It emerges with a number of factors, one of them being age, one of them is cognitive development, another is environmental influences, and opportunities to practice one's will. And that's how it gets developed, and that parents and caregivers and teachers can enhance that or thwart it. And so pretty much that's where we left off at around, we talked about birth to 3. That's the fundamental plane of life. There's the most cognitive development in one's entire life happens in the first 3 years. And then we said from 3 to 6, there's a consolidation where language now becomes a useful tool. We're interested in large words. We're interested in using language to get our needs met. Movement, we talked about movement is how the intelligence develops in the child under 6, and it's purposeful movement. And research has confirmed that the cognitive parts of the brain and the motor part of the brain are sort of all in the same area, especially for young children. We talked about order, which is a sense of the person comes to the world with a propensity for seeking order. We have the components of a mathematical mind, and we're trying to figure stuff out. Everything from I'm separate from my mom, to where things are, to ordering our internal processes. And so we seek external order to help us create internal order, especially for young children. They need it provided for them. So I think those were the main components we got into. And now we're going to move into the second, third, and fourth plane of development and talk about the changes that occur, what the needs and the tasks of the children of this age are, and how adults can contribute to that or also thwart it. Okay, so that's where we are. Are we good? Okay, so after this really tumultuous internal development phase where there's a great deal of physical transformation. The physical transformation, the physical development between 6 and 12 slows down tremendously. It's a really stable physical period of life, physically. The child has lost his baby teeth, gotten adult teeth, the face elongates, they no longer look like a baby, they look like a kid, and they move into a more stable, I can take care of myself plane of development. And so now they also move, their mind changes from absorbing what's around them and processing it from sensation, perception, and now more into concept development. And they're now interested in, hey, what does the world have to offer me? So they are really interested in going out beyond the family. And one of the tasks of the caregiver, the adult, is to allow that on a continual basis. Dr. Montessori called this the time of the good shoes. And what she meant by that is give your children a good pair of shoes and send them out the door on adventures. Because now that they have sort of a hold of themselves of who they are, now they want to know what's the world offering me. And they want to know everything. They are on an explosion of curiosity of what is out there for me. They want to know everything. And so we want to offer them the world. We want to offer it in a way that sparks their interest. And one of the key components to the shift in their mind is they're really, really curious and they have a lot of imagination. This is the time of, as Montessori calls it, a flaming ball of imagination. How high, how old, how big, how gross. They are so interested in gross jokes, it's a scream. And anybody here have elementary school children? 6 to 12-year-olds? Okay. Yeah, the grosser the better. Fart jokes, yeah, definitely. And what? Well, okay, well, we can talk about that later. And they also want to know how things work. Back when they were here, magic happened. The magic trick you would show a child of this age, they'd go, whoa. But a child who moves from 6 to 12, you give them the magic trick and they're going to say, how'd you do that? They want to know, because they have a rational mind now. It's starting, they want to figure things out. They want to know what man can do, what man has done, everything about the world they want to know. How long ago, how far away. And so we offer it to them in a way that, as I said, sparks their interest. This is also a very critical time, and if I could just impart one takeaway, is that when your children are between 6 and 12, this is the optimal time for them to acquire competencies. How to do stuff. Everything that needs to be done. If you show your children it now, it will stay with them forever. Interests, chores, tasks, capabilities, possibilities. I have a long list that I can share with you. This is the time to do this. Because, again, their physical development is at a stable place. They have this flaming ball of imagination, curiosity, and they love you. And they want to do stuff with you. So this is a great time to do that. Okay, here's a dad showing his son. I asked the dad all about this, and he gave me this lengthy explanation about plastering on the wall, and it has to be just right, and the taping and all that. Well, he's showing this to his son. This is a great age for things like this. How do I do that? And if you see, the boy has a sandpaper thing in his hand. His job was to do the sanding, and you have to wear the goggles, and the dad is showing him. So it's all kinds of tasks like that that need to be done, that we want to show our children. Something else I want to share with you is about the going out. Now, I talk to parents a lot, and modern parents are very, very, very afraid to let their children go out. And I had a mom recently tell me that she was not going to give her child a bicycle till their child was 13. They're afraid. I was shocked, and I had to be very like, oh, really? Tell me more. And I'm going, are you kidding? And so what we want to do is, of course, is we honor their fear and we honor their concern and try to find out what that's all about. But the truth is, in addition to tasks and chores and learning how to do things, children need to experience the world beyond home. What is it? What's going on? You know when we used to go out and play? So I've got a little clip here of it's just two boys going out to the park on their own. One of the things you'll notice, we talked about this earlier, that children are developing their hands and they always want to pick things up, especially things from nature. Pick things up to throw. We're tool makers, we're tool users, and it starts really early. So here's a boy just out fishing. Another boy having a different kind of experience. And the boy that's fishing is pretty annoyed, but they have to work it out themselves. There's no adult coming in there and saying, now you boys, be fair and share. They have to work it out themselves. They're now figuring out in their social development who's going to be the leader, who's going to be the intellectual, who's going to be the follower, who's the athlete, where am I vis-a-vis my peers? And it's that social self-organization that happens among children of this age. So I think the boy that's doing the fishing is just really cool because he's just not letting this other boy get in his way. The other thing that children of this age are extremely interested in are the rules. What are the rules? What are the rules vis-a-vis my peers? What's fair? What's not fair? With regard to not the world, but my friends. And so ideally, we offer children lots of time for doing pickup games and playing where they figure out what the rules are among themselves, as opposed to having adult rules imposed. That comes later. But you have to figure that out for yourself. It's a developmental necessity. So you want to have them have lots of time where they figure out rules. Do you remember when we used to go out and play? Does anybody remember that? And you would spend more time figuring out the rules of the game than playing the game, right? Because it's well, who's going to do this and who's going to do that? And you'd argue and you'd figure it out. It's a fundamental need of this age, is to figure that out, what's fair and what's not fair in the rules. Okay, so going back to this interest in the outer world, you want to also find a school for your child that meets this developmental need. And I'm a big fan of Montessori. I'm sure there are other pedagogies out there, but my suggestion to you is to think about what could offer my child the opportunity to get these questions answered. And one of the questions that comes to them is, Montessori Curriculum brings the curriculum in the 5 great lessons. And the introduction of every curriculum area starts with a big story. Once upon a time, a long time ago, before your parents were born, because children of this age have this imagination and they want these stories. So the first story is the coming of the universe and the earth. Now, we can debate Big Bang or not. I was talking to some Montessori elementary teachers yesterday, and some people say the Big Bang, some people say the Big Bang and then there was a bang before that and a bang before that. But that's another discussion. But what I want to share with you is that the coming of the universe and the earth leads to curriculum areas. I just have this list here: astronomy, meteorology, chemistry, physics, geology, and geography. It all starts with one of the 5 great stories. Then there's the coming of life. And each Montessorian delivers this great story his or her own way. And it depends on the personality of the teacher. And as an elementary Montessori teacher, you want to be kind of flamboyant, and because they're jovial rascals at the lower elementary. So the coming of life includes curriculum areas, biology, botany, habitats, food chains, adaptation, ecosystems, ancient life, animals, and the various kingdoms. So it leads into all of those curriculum areas. And again, it starts with their great, I did that, coming of life, okay. What's next? The coming of the human beings leads to the study of history, culture, the social sciences, discoveries, and inventions. Okay, then the fourth story is communication and signs. And that's basically the story of writing. And that's reading, writing, languages, the structure of languages, word analysis, and even bookmaking. And then the last one is the story of numbers. And that would be then mathematics, the origin of numbers and number systems, geometry, and story problems. So they're offered to the students in this way, and the students are permitted to follow their interest. But because they're interested in everything, if you've ever been in has anybody ever been in a Montessori elementary classroom? They're busy. They're really busy and fully engaged, and they're collaborating with their peers because now they're having this interest in social as opposed to self-development. They want to work with their friends. So a lot of work is done in collaboration, which is fine. They have class meetings all the time to debate things, to discuss things, to figure things out, to solve problems. So it's a great environment. Okay. What else is important for children of this age? Well, as part of learning what men can do, what man can do, they need to figure out the system for money. So money becomes a really great and interesting endeavor to think about it, what it is, that it's a tool of exchange, it's a representation of reality, we use it, how do we use it? See, and if you introduce it here before they get to here, all it is here for them is something really cool and interesting and new. It's not fraught with all of this drama that happens later. And again, remember I suggested that you're going to want to introduce your children to lots and lots of competencies at this age. And one of them is about money, what money can do, what it doesn't do, how to use it. This is a great time, if you already haven't done it, to start with allowance. And we could get into a whole side conversation about allowance, but my view on allowance is it's separate from chores. I think that chores for children have to do with you are a member of this family, and as a member of this family, we all have chores. Now, that doesn't mean there's not side extra jobs. That's another discussion, but that learning about money is learning about money first and then learning about how to apply it later. But if you're trying to, well, let me back up. In Montessori, we talk about isolation of the difficulty, one new concept at a time. So you want to learn about what money is for its own sake, and then how to use it, and then how do I use it in my personal life. So that comes later. So my suggestion is that you start with an allowance and that you talk about how it will be used. And in your family, how you express your family values is how you would decide how it would get used. So for example, let's say, well, this is what we did. Starting at 6, it was $1 per week for how old she was. So $6 a week for the first year at 6. And then $7, and then $8 on the way up. However, half of it was to be put away for college because she was going to pay for her college, we weren't. And we instilled that real early. And then 1/4 of it was for saving for large purchases that she was wanting to make, and 1/4 of it was for spending money. And so we introduced the idea early, and so you took your 1/4 of your money with you to the grocery store at 6, 7, and 8 years old, and you realized how much money I have and how much something costs. And then, well, I don't have enough, and the parent, you can just go, how, let's do some math. How long will it take for you to save to get what you want? And that puts the responsibility more squarely on your children. And then you just don't allow the begging. It's just, oh, I'm sorry, what's your plan? How long will it take you to save for that? Oh, I guess it is my job. Because they're capable of it now cognitively to figure that out. It's about not negotiating what's not negotiable. If you've decided that now you have to learn about money, what it is, how you use it, and so again, I like allowance. The other thing that you want to start doing with regard to money is opening a checking account for your child, however you want to do that. But they need to understand how the banking system works. We're very fortunate in Colorado that Bill Daniels, the cable magnate, started what's called the Children's Bank. And our daughter, 8 years old, she had a checking account. And now, of course, you have to co-sign and everything, but when you come up to the teller window, there's a step stool, because you can be 8 years old with your pennies that you saved, and you learn how you accumulate that money. The other thing that the Children's Bank did, I want to go to the next slide. It's very beautiful. It's now called the Young Americans Financial Foundation. And I think Bill Daniels is trying to open branches around the country. Might be something to get information about. They also started something there called Ameritown. And what Ameritown is, I'm going to show you a few slides of that, is inside the bank is a representation of what a town is. And it's for, I'd say 8-year-olds to about 15-year-olds. And you go in there and you practice professions and how much money it takes and how much money you take in. And see, your parents aren't there. At this age, you're learning things from other people, and you're interested at this age to go out, away from your parents, and learn from other experts. So I'm just going to flip through a few of these here. There's Profits Parkway and Success Street. There's the town hall, the bank. There's an auto parts store. And they do jobs in there. And they learn how to do this stuff. The fitness center, investment company, the market, the TV station. Everybody loves that one. They want to be in there and be the weatherman. You see the green screen back there? And they love this because, again, they're not adolescents yet. They're just interested because it's cool. And it's a camp, and you can go there and learn this stuff. Medical center, the sweet shop. One day I was there not too long ago, and they were having an entrepreneur fair. And all the kids here made the goods, and they're selling them. And so we were all just wandering around being consumers. And the question I asked to most of them who were willing to talk, for a lot of them this was their first time doing anything like this, they could hardly look at you. But the ones who were willing to have a conversation, I said, so how did you get capitalized? Capitalized, what's that? Well, who gave you the money to get started? Oh, my mom and dad. Okay, so then did you have to pay? Yes, I have to pay them back. All right, so that's capitalizing a loan and return on investment and the cost of sales. So they're learning all of this individually. So that's an opportunity for children to learn about money. Dr. Montessori says, and I totally agree with her, and I'm seeing this in our culture right now, that, see if I can get the quote. Well, the paraphrase of the quote is that the children of whatever age, especially this age, will engage if there is reality to engage with. If there's not reality, they will devolve into fantasy. And I'm telling you, I see this now a lot in our culture. I know you all do too. I think that the proliferation of video games and going online and devolving into fantasy is because most kids this age are bored out of their gourd. And they don't have interesting things that really engage who they really are. So our obligation as parents, caregivers, teachers, friends, grandparents, whatever, is to find ways to give them what they need at this developmental age. And I'm telling you, it's those competencies. Everything from how do you mow the lawn? How do you cook a meal? How do you start a fire? How do you wash your clothes? How do you change a tire? What else? Come on, what else do you need to learn? What? Program a computer. How do you program a computer? Exactly.
Laundry.
What?
Laundry.
How do you do your laundry?
Clean the house.
What?
Clean the house.
How do you leave the house? What?
How to cook.
How to take the bus. How to read a map. How to find your way home. How to read a compass. How to resolve interpersonal relationships. Absolutely. All of those competencies can be taught, shown, modeled at this age because they're emotionally stable, generally speaking. And they take it all in as something really interesting and cool, especially if it's taught by somebody they love and care about, whether it's their teacher, their parents, an auntie, a friend. All of that. Dr. Montessori really liked the Boy Scouts, where you could go out with a group and you learned all this cool stuff, but your parents weren't always there, but you were still chaperoned, and you learned how to do stuff. So anything like 4-H or Boy Scouts or any other group that the children are interested in where they can learn things out there to get those competencies is really key. The other thing that you do is that you share honorable traditions from your family, and you start including the children of this age into making them. So you start to have family meetings like, well, what should we do this year for Christmas? What should we do this year for Thanksgiving? To get them involved in that, they are so honored. Not that they decide, but they participate in the decision. Well, we're going to go to Grandma's? Okay. Well, Nathan, you're 7. No, you're 8, 9. You take charge of figuring out the mileage and then figuring out how much the gas will cost and which route will we take. And Mary Ellen, I would like you to investigate hotels where we're going to stay and how long and what kind of snacks should we take in the car. So you get them involved, but they're not little prince and princesses. They have to be purposeful in doing what needs to be done for the family. And that just in our family, everybody contributes. You have this ethic in your family, everybody contributes. And I'm telling you, your kids at this age will really want to do this because they're going to do it with you, they still love you, they haven't left you yet, and they're competent and capable. And it's fun and interesting, but again, you have to invest the time that we talked about this morning. Okay. Here's another list. Cook, sew, wash your own clothes, carpentry, how to fix things, pet care, how to invent things, investigating things, putting on plays. How about going for Red Cross training? How about that? How about learning how to work? Like Mom's Day Out helper. Girls and boys. Or here's the lawnmower, you may use it, and here's you have to figure out the cost of the gasoline for it, but you may go up and down the street and I'll show you how to do it, son or daughter, and you can earn money mowing lawns for people. Now, of course, as part of what we do is we always mow the lawn for the lady down the street who doesn't have much money, and this is something we just do. So you include that kind of thing as well. This is just something we do. No one's forced us. It's not government. It's just what we do. So they learn how to work and what money is, and then they put their money in this checking account and they see how it grows. And everything they earn, 1/2 of it goes to helping them become independent down the road. All right. So then you have this tremendous change that happens here, roughly here. And we're going to say 12, but what we really mean is puberty. And if this is the most dramatic time of change of life, this is the second most dramatic. because it's the first plane of development. That's not the planes of childhood, it's the beginning of planes of adulthood. And young people who are moving into adolescence need to take a leap out of childhood and move into the beginnings of adulthood. And it takes, you've got some years left, parents. It doesn't all happen at once, but this is where they're going. And so this is the time. There's much things that happen here. First of all, they have new physical and sexual power, and they have no idea what to do with it at this time. They really don't. They may look like they do, they may act like they do, they may tell you that they do, but they have no clue. So what they need is an honor guard and a ceremony to help them with this transition from here to here. That they understand that there's now new freedoms, but new responsibilities. And I have this whole side thing that I do to help dads and men with initiating the boys and the women to help initiate the girls, because in most Western cultures we don't have those rituals. We have to make them up. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we can chat about that. I can help you with that, or I have information for you. But they really need this. And they also need now really important work. They don't need busy work. They need to be seen as needed and useful in the family and in the community. So you want to find ways to help them have that bigger, more important work. In Colorado, we have a lot of fires, and so a lot of the teenagers spend time helping gather the horses and using their hoses to help put out the fires in rural areas, and creating a phone tree and all kinds of things where they're really useful and needed. So that's what they're going to do, because if they've learned these competencies back here, now they can put them to use. If they don't have these competencies here, what will happen here is they will be at the mercy of the popular culture mob, because it's powerful and pervasive, and it will call upon your kids to do things that you would be aghast about, but it's out there. They're like wolves at your door. And so your values that you instill in them early, these competencies, this sense of responsibility that goes with every new freedom, it kind of comes together, will help them tremendously. They also need chaperoning. We have to be really careful about this. They say and they act and they will test your boundaries about, hey, you know, but they don't just get the car keys when they're 16. They have to prove to you that they are responsible and that they know what they're doing. It's a freedom that's earned. They don't just get to have it, because with freedom comes responsibility. So there's all of that goes on here. And then the last, how am I doing, Alexander? About 2 minutes? Oh, wait, I want to show you one more clip. This girl here is a teenager. And she didn't want to do anything. I happen to know her. And she didn't want to do anything. And we were having Thanksgiving. And I said, because she's a teenager here, I said, well, I think this is the year for you to make the pies. So I showed her how to make the pies, and every year since then, she's made the apple pies. And my husband to this day says, was Megan going to come and make the apple pies again this year? So it's a competency, it's an honor, it's something she learned how to do. She realized it was important to the family, and she's obviously very joyous here that she could contribute to the family. So she's really proud of her apple pie. So that's just a little example, but you want to find things in your family that would speak to who your child or your children are and how they can contribute and how it really matters. So there's that. Okay. Then the last phase is moving into maturity. And I'll speak for myself. This is the hardest part, I think, for parents. Because what you have to do as parents is now you have to let go. And they need to be honored as an adult who's maturing, and they need to be emancipated. If you just let them stay in your house, they'll stay forever. You have to say, here's your exit date, and make the plan. We made the plan back here at 17, that you will be out by the time you go to college. And when you come back, you'll be a visitor. What's your plan? And she had to make one because you set up the boundary and you tell them what it's going to be, and they're out the door. And if they have these competencies plus the money, and you've spent lots of time showing them, well, what does rent cost? What's on your paycheck? How do you make it work? You have to spend time preparing them to become independent. And if you do that, then they'll see that you've honored me all the way through here as my own person, and you're my guide and you're my resource, but you're not you don't have your thumb on me. You have belief in me that I can do what I need to do to become a mature adult.